Here we go. Hello, welcome to everyone watching Getting It Off Her Chest. I have a beautiful guest with me today. Her name is Marie Antoinette Helou. Hello. We've just been laughing about that. She is an amazing woman. I've actually had a session with Marie Antoinette and it was incredible. I've met Marie through a mutual friend of ours, Melanie. And so I think, you know, when we're meant to meet people, we just do. We're brought together, and it felt very much like that for us. I'm just going to read your little bio here that you sent me, because it just give the people that are watching and listening to this a little snapshot of your mission. So Marie Antoinette Helou's mission is to return the truth to the world, to help set them free from all false conditioning and help assist the return of ancient practices to humanity, to help heal and open their hearts to their true divine sovereign power.
Correct.
I totally resonate with that. So let's begin. I'll also just talk about your book that I have read. I devoured it in a couple of days. It's called Same But Different, A Soul Approach to Mental Health. And I guess this is a good starting point, because you have yourself had a lot of experience in that mental health institution, starting off with your mother, and also your own experience with that, and also the fact that you're incredibly psychic. And I know of this of other people who have this psychic ability. They can look on the outside like they are crazy, or when they've got such a connection, this psychic connection, that you can feel crazy yourself. So talk to us a little bit about how you started on this road to your, connection to source and your psychic abilities.
Well, my experience was very, very difficult. I know with other people who are psychic, their childhood experiences might be that they've seen spirits, or, they've been able to see things. So it's very obvious to them that they are actually skilled in an area. So for me, it was very difficult because I had what's called claircognizance, which most people understand what clairvoyance is to be able to see into the future. But I had an inner knowing. So claircognizance is often unknown, and it's an inner knowing without any doubt that something is true. So it's a very confusing thing to have, or a skill to have on its own. And so I had that skill from a very young age. However, the other skills started to come online afterwards. So I had certain awakenings, and then, my multidimensional skills, I would say, like clairaudience, which is hearing, and clairsentience, which is sensing, and clairvoyance came a lot later. So the claircognizance was very confusing on its own, because you might hear things that people are telling you, especially as a child, hearing things from adults, and the inner knowing is like, oh no, hang on, that's not true. That's not true. So for example, I'll give you an example. I know when I got raised in a Catholic upbringing, some of the things that I was taught there was that we just have this life, for example. And I remember asking lots of questions as a child, like, you sure, what happens after this? It's nothing, like, you just, and I didn't quite have a concept of what happens after death, for example. And I remember feeling like I was being lied to by my parents. Like I felt like, why are they lying to me? And I had a sense of mistrust in the world. Like, it was so difficult to live in the world because I didn't trust anything outside. And so in an interesting way, it helped me to trust the inside a lot better. So that manifested in difficulties in teenage years, because I was often seen as oppositional and defiant, and I wouldn't follow the rules, and I wouldn't succumb to what adults were telling me. So back in my day, growing up, ADHD wasn't such a big thing, but I'm pretty sure that if I had grown up a lot later, I certainly would have had that label put on me. Easily distracted, unable to concentrate often a lot of the time, all of these manifestations which look like mental illness are often examples of skills that we have that we don't even know that we have, because let's face it, the world doesn't support that on a global level. Like, there are lots of psychics and people like that, but we're not really supported, throughout generations, the great witch hunts through the times. Anybody who was doing this kind of stuff was very suspicious and somebody to stay away from or be a little bit careful of. So I've had those energies coming towards me all my life, which has caused a lot of depression and anxiety, because I didn't understand why people would back away from me or not trust me. And there was certainly that in reciprocation as well. Like, I had certain feelings about people that I couldn't understand, and people would say, be nice to this person, and something in my body was like, oh no, I don't really want to, which, it's hard to hold, and it's hard to have your social graces when you've got all these emotions going on in your body, because it's like, you can look like somebody who's got Asperger's, for example, sometimes, because you can almost get really agitated and say things that you don't mean, like because you have this urgency in your body to maybe shut down what's going on around you, or it's the best way for me to describe it, the extreme form of this would probably schizophrenia, because it's so hard to take in all the information and everything that's going on and also understand what's going on in the body, that it can manifest in some splitting in the consciousness. So I guess, I don't know, you haven't asked me this question, but I'll go ahead and say, my psychotherapy studies and also all my studies around trauma have been able to help myself understand myself, but then also see that it's happening to lots of other people that perhaps...
the beginning of the book here.
Going on,
The beginning of your book here, I'm just reading again. To all of those who have ever felt different to everybody else, who have been labelled, suppressed, felt crazy, weird, isolated and alone, this is for you. Blessings to you. May you find solace, wisdom, relief, humour and inspiration within. Sensitive souls who behave differently. SSBD. And I can totally relate to that. That's why, when I read that, it was like, sometimes you are treated differently, people don't get where you're coming from, and I've found that I have suppressed a lot of that throughout my life, because I wanted to fit in, and I didn't want to feel like I was not normal.
I'm getting quite emotional actually as you read that, because even this is how I am. Like, I feel very deeply. That's another thing. Like, we don't often, because we're in society. They try to put us into a structure of one mold and one box and one size fits all, and it certainly doesn't. I mean, we all think at different speeds. We feel at different levels. So, what could affect somebody just slightly could affect the next person really deeply, and so we can't place a measure of just one thing fits all. And I think that's what happens when we look at the mental health system, is we have this box and structure of this is how you're expected to behave and this is how you should be, and anything else that deviates from this is unwell. And that to me is insane. I just don't have the word for it.
Let's talk about the mental health experience for you and how you found yourself in that. If you can talk about that, and how you realised that this wasn't where you were meant to be.
Well, it's so interesting because most people have a fear of death, right? Their biggest fear might be to die, or public speaking is the other one. But my biggest fear was none of that, either of those two things. I had actually established my career in many different ways, quite confident, quite embodied, and felt, I could public speak. And I also wasn't afraid of death because of my abilities from the mediumship side and communicating, and also traveling to the light, and also feeling all the love that's on the other side. So death to me then wasn't a finality, it was just another place. So those two fears were not there, but there was one fear left, that was sitting there, which was I never ever wanted to end up in a psychiatric ward. I had this terror about it, and it could have been because probably there was a lot of trauma associated with the love that I had for my mother and my brother, who were constantly in these systems. And when I went there, could see that it was a punishing system. It wasn't a wellness system. It was almost a restraining system where the medications would dull them down, make them shut down, make them disconnected, almost like zombies. And so I had a passion from that to help in the mental health arena, okay? So most people who get into those helping fields have been deeply affected by family members often. So when I did find myself in that experience, I was traumatized quite a lot to begin with. And when I did try to speak up for myself, and I actually had some insight into what was happening to me at the time because of my own training, but that was not listened to or heard. So, for example, I remember trying to tell them, look, I understand what's happening to me, and I know that I was behaving in some interesting ways, but I tried to say to them, like, I'm actually a psychotherapist, and they're kind of nodding their head at me, and I could tell they didn't take me seriously. And then I think I made a joke because I was so nervous, and then they looked at me a bit strange, and I said, oh, I'm a comedian as well. And they went, oh, okay. And I remember getting my file notes much later, because under the Freedom of Information Act I can obtain all that information, and it said that the patient is suffering a delusion that she's a psychotherapist and a stand-up comedian. And it's kind of interesting because everything was seen that I was doing through the lens of pathology. And so being traumatized already going in there, I was even more traumatized because I felt so trapped in order to try and get the help I needed, because I was not being listened to or heard. I was just being seen as somebody who's not very well, who doesn't have a say in her own treatment, because I was trying to say to them, look, I'm not happy with these medications, which I was again looked at as oppositional and defiant, also a symptom of my apparent disorder at the time, which is interesting that it's a symptom. That's a symptom that you're in denial of something. That you don't know your own truth. So it was an interesting process, because I know they probably, I laugh at the situation because I probably was a handful for them from their angle, because I was constantly trying to speak up and stand up and assert my rights, call in help from as much as possible I could from legal people to understand how I could get out. It was a very intense time, and it was a very interesting experience too, in a way, from a higher perspective, because it gave me so much more compassion for my mother and my brother to actually experience that firsthand. And if I was helping people in the mental health system, it actually gave me a renewed sense, actually, of being able to help people. It touched my heart in so many ways to have gone through that pain, and to understand that there were so many people in there that were not unwell. They were in there because they had taken drugs and they'd had drug psychoses, which I thought was very interesting. That I asked, it was like I was interviewing the other patients. So I would ask them, how did you end up in here? I mean, one story was that there was a young man who, and I'll share this about his culture too, because it's very interesting. He came from the same culture as mine. I'm Lebanese and Egyptian. So he came from a Lebanese culture. He was very young, only 19. And I asked him, how did you get in here? And he said that, in all honesty, he'd been taking some amphetamines. He hadn't told his parents that. And he lost his temper, and he was kicking things around, and his mother called the police to say, my son, he's gone crazy, because that's how Arabic women express themselves. They say, my son, he's gone crazy. So what did the police do with that? The police thought, okay, he's crazy, he's mentally unwell, we must pick him up and take him to the psychiatric ward, you see. So they took him to the psychiatric ward. He got assessed, and he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and he was so upset about it. And I said to him, he said, they've put me on a treatment order now, and now I have to take all these medications. And I said to him, he said, there's nothing wrong with me. And I said, yeah, I can see that very clearly, and I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I tried to help him, actually, while I was in there. I tried to help many people, actually, while I was in there, because I could see what was really going on. I could see...
You would say this was like your training ground into the work that you're doing now, like a precursor.
I see it as an initiation now. Like in the shamanic traditions, we often need to go through experiences in our real world and our life in order to become fully ready to be able to fully deliver a message or to fully help the people, those that need it. We often need to walk the path in which they've walked in order to come back and help.
Yeah. Absolutely. So with all that experience and eye-opening stuff and a real look into yourself, I guess, through these experiences, where has it led you in the work that you're doing? I mean, I know this book, for example, took a long time to get out.
It did. Over 10 years to get out, that one.
So where has it led you to now? And what if we're talking about living in the present moment, because as we know, time is speeding up. We're in a really exciting time of change. It's amazing to be on this planet right now. Some of the people that may listen to this would be thinking, what the hell are they all talking about? But so can you give us a kind of a touch on where your work is leading you to now, and what do you think is like where are we at this critical point in time? What's it all about?
Right, okay, sure. So as you said before, it's like my experiences in my life have been my training. And so, I mean, I've studied so much. I've studied, I don't know, probably for about 18 years now, many different modalities. And what I have understood is that I'm just bridging them all together now in my work. So I studied as a Gestalt psychotherapist. I've also studied theta healing, which looks at changing your beliefs. Because our beliefs create our reality. And if we've got unconscious beliefs like, people are always going to hurt me, that's what we're going to bring in. So changing the belief systems is very important. So I'm also an instructor in that. So I teach people those certificates in order to help themselves and others. And also, I've studied family constellations, so family systems, and having a look at how phenomena can happen with different family members carrying different traumas for other family members. It's a very interesting thing. So I run those, and so I'm doing that as well. But my one-on-one work, and I also do women's retreats as well to help them connect with the feminine aspect of them, because one thing about balance of what I've learned in the healing practices that I have gone into and for myself is that for us to be fully balanced really in this world is to acknowledge that we might have an exterior female body, you and I, but we have a masculine side, and the males who have the exterior masculine body also have the feminine. And so everything is a symbol of everything else. And if we're at war with ourselves, then we're going to be at war with others around us. So if we're at war with the masculine part of ourselves, we're going to have resentments and not so much nice energy to male energy. And male energy is kind of threefold. I'll explain what I mean. So male energy can be towards your father or towards your brother or towards your son, or it could also be a disconnection from Father Sky, if we can say that, right? And then if people are disconnected from the feminine part of them, they could be disconnected from Mother Earth. They might not be really grounded. They might have disconnections with their mothers or their sisters or their daughters. So if we heal, and what my particular thing is where I'm going is pretty much a multi-dimensional healing framework where I will use my abilities in the psychic world and time travel and traveling in consciousness to be able to assist people. But then I will also use my psychotherapy experiences and trauma to ground that and help to support that process. So it's kind of a multifold process. I was going to say two, but really it's multifold process of helping people on many different levels. because I found in my own healing that I had to go to many different arenas.
Yes.
Not one modality is going to sort
Yes.
everything out. Or people, I remember studying psychotherapy, and even sitting in the 4-year course that I did, I would sit there and go, surely there's got to be a quicker way than this. Surely people shouldn't be sitting in a chair for years at a time telling their stories, yeah? So I guess I work on the soul level also, because of what I have found is that a lot of things that people experience, I like to call it past life bleed through, I call it. It's a term I haven't published yet, but something quite new. So a past life bleed through can be that some people could be having reactions to certain things in their life now that comes from past life that cannot be explained in traditional psychology, because traditional psychology doesn't look at that life. Traditional psychology will look at from when you were born until where you are now. But if we look at multidimensional healing, we're able to see that there are past lives that are contributing to some of these things. For example, for my own self, I know, and for other people, I've known that they might have been ostracised a lot in their past life, or rejected or abandoned. And so that is a great sensitivity to them in this life. So anytime anybody's going to reject them or abandon them or not accept them, then it's a real deep intrapsychic pain. And that's a term that would explain some of this multidimensionality that I'm talking about. It's such a deep intrapsychic pain that is often hard to put into words. So often people can't go and speak to someone like a therapist because they don't know what's happening to them. And so going to other body-centered therapies as well, like bypassing the mind construct, and being able to do therapies like that where you're bypassing the mind, can often help people like this. Yeah.
So can we talk about, there's a lot of talk right now about self-love, and and it seems to be a buzzword at the moment. Can you talk to us a little bit about how important self-love is right now?
Well, as you're asking that, I'm just experiencing so much joy in my body.
Yeah. I know this is a big one for you.
It is a big one because, well, I suppose, look, all my life I've read books and all the self-help stuff, and all this stuff points to you just got to love yourself, right? Yeah. And so can I share an experience that happened for me recently?
Sure. Go for it.
So just recently I had an experience where I fell in love with myself. And the best of it was a very bizarre experience, and I'm glad we're talking about this on this particular channel, I suppose, because it's such an experience that it's so difficult to express to people because it does look crazy. Okay.
Yes.
So I had this experience where I caught my reflection in the mirror and I looked directly into my eyes, and I just had this moment where I was just like, oh, she's so beautiful. She's amazing. And then I just thought about everything that I'd gone through in my whole life, and I just had this admiration of just, oh, wow, she survived so much and she's still here. And it was so beautiful that I laughed to myself, being the comedian that I am. I was laughing to myself and thought, oh, I should marry myself, I should. So it was just a fleeting thought at the first time, and then the second time it happened was in my home, and I caught my reflection, and so it happened all over again, and it was almost like, oh, there she is. Oh, she's so beautiful. Even as I'm saying it, it sounds insane, but I'm very much in love with myself now, and
yeah.
I did seal the deal. I did marry myself over in Bali. I actually did some work over in Bali, which was body-centered trauma stuff that I needed to do. Because my thing is that yes, I'm nobody's guru. I'm nobody's teacher. I'm not an expert. I can only really share from my own experience and my training, I suppose. However, people are their own experts. Yeah. So. And that's the key, really. The key is to find your own expert within yourself. So. So I guess I did, and I'm pointing that out because I continually am doing work on myself. I continually, try to evolve myself in order to be more of service to others. Yeah. So it's a continual process of self-development. So I did some more work, and afterwards I had a major process where I did a bit of a ceremony. I'm touching my ring now. I feel like I want to show people my ring. That's my wedding ring, which represents as above and so below. And also it was a much significance because it kind of was an integration process of all the love that I suddenly had for myself. And often they say in relationships as well, if you're trying to find a partner, you must be a whole person. You must love yourself before you can allow love in or give love. And so, our world is so, we're being taught, keep loving others and keep doing this and being so loving towards others. We can't actually do that well. Because we could hurt people without realising, and I've certainly done that. And so, and realising how much I'd hurt people in the past because I didn't love myself was quite painful. And so when I did marry myself, it was like, wow. And I made vows. I made specific vows. I had a make-do beautiful woman that played my bridesmaid, and she also played the celebrant as well, and she organised lots of things. But I actually want to do a proper wedding here in Australia because it was a kind of a rash thing, but I'm quite seriously considering doing it properly and having family members there and things like that. As crazy as it sounds. And I know it's just,
I mean, we're always looking outside, aren't we, for the other part, the other half to make us feel whole. And if that person just loves me, or if I just love that person, then we can skip off in, it's the fairy tale, right? But we need to love ourselves. This is a journey. To me, it's the key. It's the key to living a really healthy life.
Yeah. Even as you were talking then, I just had so much. It's like you're saying, we feel this love and we feel complete, and this. I feel so complete in myself with this ceremony that I have done, and I've also discovered, that it's an ancient practice. So it's a very ancient Egyptian practice to actually form a union with oneself, because it's very wise. If we form a union with oneself, it actually helps us connect within ourselves, and we're just able to see the truth about things. This world is it's changing. There's lots of love and light. Yeah, beautiful. Spiritual movement has been fantastic. But there's a third thing that we need, which is truth. We need the truth of everything to come forward, because without the proper truth in our world, people are lost. So, there's a great saying that once you find the truth shall set you free. It
piss you off a little bit.
And at first it will piss you off a little bit. Yeah, let's add that bit in there, because it is difficult. It is. It's so difficult when you start to see truths that you didn't see before, and it's a bit like, wow, it's so different, or it's a perception shift. It can be ungrounding. I mean, and even in those experiences, you can lose friends. You can even lose connections with your family because you no longer resonate with them anymore. And so it's like, and you don't know why. I mean, people I know at the moment are experiencing so much of that at the moment, so much discord. And but it's because it's a necessary process, actually. It's a necessary process for people to come into their own being and come, stop looking outwards, come inwards, And we can't be of service to other people if we are not complete in ourselves. Yeah,
that's the whole thing. That's all we've got time for. That's half an hour gone. But we will have another conversation, because there's so much to cover. There's so much to talk about. I love your book, and I'll obviously have information about how people can contact you. get in contact. I've had a session with you. It was absolutely amazing, very insightful. I think you've got such a gift and you're a gift to the world, and we need people like you right now. I love you because you're no bullshit. You're a straight shooter. You say how it is, and that's probably why I resonate with you. And I hope that this helps people get a feeling and an essence of you, who you are, what your gift is to the world, and what a bloody courageous woman you are. I love you dearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, so much. Thank you.
Love you. Love you. Have a wonderful day.
I will.